So, you want some of that beautiful, sloppy American spaghetti and meatballs. Or maybe you just want something easy and reliable for a weeknight meal. Well, here's one of the easiest spaghetti and meatball recipes I've ever made. Alright, first, let's prepare the tomatoes. If you have a can of crushed tomatoes, you can skip this step. This is only if you could find canned whole tomatoes. And I would only recommend using canned tomatoes that generally have a better flavor than fresh tomatoes. Unless you've grown your own tomatoes, in which case use those. Those are going to taste amazing, and you should definitely have them. Grab a food processor and lift the whole tomatoes out of the canning liquid. The liquid tends to be just a little bit bitter. And then run the food processor until you get your desired consistency. I liked a little bit more chunky than usual, but you know, just get what you want. And then bam, tomatoes are ready. Now let's. Oh god, I did it again. Now let's. I got it. Okay. Now, let's make it. Now, make it the meatball. The first thing to do is to take some breadcrumbs and soak them in milk. This is going to be the main binder in this recipe. If it crumbles too much for your taste, use an egg yolk at the very least. Or use a whole egg, or use 2 eggs. I don't like using eggs because they make my girlfriend sick, so I don't use them. Next, we gotta add the beef. I like to use ground sirloin for this. This time I'm using ground chuck because that's what I had. I prefer the ground sirloin because it leaves a little bit less of that red grease fat at the end of the tomato sauce, and because it leaves just less fat out. So I prefer it for that reason. Grate some fresh Pecorino Romano cheese into this, or any kind of cheese. Fresh grated would be the best option. If you only have the pre-grated Parmesan, then I'm sorry, I hate you. This gives a real good funkin' texture, and it just tastes really good, in my opinion. So, now let's add some seasoning. Salt and pepper, you gotta do, obvious tastes. And then garlic and onion powder, that works really well. That's been added for a long time now. I like to do a little bit of cayenne pepper and some paprika for some spice and extra flavor. And I like it. And you could do oregano. I like oregano in there too. Herbs de Provence, if you have that. Dried parsley. Generally you want to use dried herbs or spices and stuff like that. That's just going to work better in here. That's what I would recommend. Any other general spices like that would work really well. Now you're gonna add the breadcrumbs by lifting them out of the milk. You might even want to squeeze out some of the milk. The more milk, the crumblier the meatballs will end up being. The milk also contributes a lot of extra flavor and makes them taste better and more moist. So do whatever you want. I like it a bit more milky, so I did more milk. And then you're going to want to mix it up very lightly. Just mix it up with your hands. That's the best way to do it. You're going to be forming the meatballs anyway, so it's just easier to mix it up like this. I would err on the side of under mixing. Too much mixing makes it taste like meatloaf, and that's not what we're making. We're making meatballs. They are very similar things. Now we just got to form the balls. It's very simple. You just got to grab the desired amount for the meatballs. I like them pretty small, slightly smaller than golf ball size. That's my personal preference. That's just the way I like to do it. And then roll it between your palms, where both of your palms are going in a circular motion, and use your thumb and fingers of the palm that is on top to help shape it. I don't really know how to perfectly explain it, but as you keep doing it, you'll get better at it. And they're not going to be perfect. It's a meatball. It's not meant to be perfect, so just do it however you can. And that's what I would recommend. Get a non-stick pan on medium-high heat with olive oil. I recommend something with wide sides like this one, which makes the process a little bit easier. While this heats up, also get a pot of salted water boiling on another burner. Once the pan gets hot and the oil starts to smoke a bit, start laying the meatballs in one by one. I would say let them cook 5 to 8 minutes on each side, but you can always flip early and check. maybe even 2 to 3. It really just depends on your stove and how long you think it's going to take. The best tool to flip, in my opinion, is a wooden spoon. It prevents too much crumbling from the flipping, and it can be a little bit harder to actually do the flip, but it just is more delicate for flipping it. Once all the meatballs are flipped, give them another minute, and then push them out of the way and fry a big squeeze of tomato paste in the pan. The meatballs will not be done at this point, but you want to get the tomato paste started before you start doing the sauce, so then they will be done by the time it's going on. When it looks like it's about to burn, add in the tomatoes we processed earlier, or maybe like half a can of crushed tomatoes if that's what you have. I would actually recommend that. It makes it a lot easier. At this point, throw your spaghetti into the pot of boiling water. It should be done in about 11-ish minutes. If you want your sauce to be a little bit tighter, then wait maybe like 5 minutes before throwing in the spaghetti. If you want it to be a little bit looser, then throw in the spaghetti before you throw in the tomato sauce, maybe like 3 or 4 minutes before you throw in the tomatoes for the tomato sauce. Once you get near the end of the spaghetti, add some more grated cheese to the sauce and take it off the heat, and then drain the spaghetti and throw it back into the pot. I like to just drain through a gap in the pot lid. It makes it really easy, and then you don't have to dirty up a strainer. Add some of the meatballs and as much of the sauce as you can, not all of it, but just a good amount, and mix them up together. This helps get the sauce mixed through all the spaghetti, and if you do kind of a poor job at straining it, you still have a little bit of pasta water, and that helps emulsify the sauce and make it a little bit more cohesive. I wouldn't recommend doing all of the meatballs. It can make it hard to mix everything up, and then you might have some meatballs crack in the process. Nobody likes a cracked meatball unless they've done it themselves. Then add these to the plate in roughly equal portions, top with the remaining meatballs, some fresh torn parsley, and a bunch of extra grated cheese. And then just dig into this Italian-American classic. It's immediately something that I'm going to be making so much more as I keep needing more meals to make. And it's just so easy and so simple, and it tastes better than any store-bought meatballs I've ever got. So why not?